This episode of the Cutting Room Floor. This is a segment where we get to dig a little bit deeper into some of the content from a recent message here at Sunny Slope. Um, just the other day, we looked at a text from Jonah chapter 2. We've been going through the story of Jonah, and Jonah chapter 2 recounts for us the prayer that Jonah prayed when he was in the belly of the fish. And if you go through the poem, Jonah uses a lot of language that is, some of it is pretty simple and straightforward. Some of it is a little bit confusing to us. And so I thought it might be helpful and maybe interesting to dig a little bit deeper into some of that language. The first thing I want to do is put up on my screen the text, and then I want to highlight a few of the words for you so that you can kind of see and understand what we're referring to. So I'm going to put my screen up, and you'll see the words here of Jonah chapter 2. And in Jonah chapter 2, there's a few words here that I've already highlighted, and so I'll just kind of draw some attention to these where you read here, the belly of Sheol, and you cast me into the deep and the heart of the seas. You read again the word the deep, and then the roots of the mountain and the bars that closed upon me forever. Now, Sheol is a word that's not too strange. If you've read through the Bible and if you've done even a little bit of Bible study, you may have come across that word. The word deep is obviously that makes a lot of sense given the context. You get the words like floods and waves and billows, and clearly that's meant to kind of capture this sense of what does it mean to be in the water, and especially a drowning experience like Jonah's. But there's more going on here. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I wanted to highlight those words here because especially down here, these words, roots of the mountain and bars that close on me, that's pretty foreign to our understanding. And what I thought I'd do is maybe I'm going to pull up here in just a second, a second picture. I actually think I've used this on one of these segments before. And so we'll pull it up again. And what you see here is what's called the Hebrew cosmology. And all that is just that's just really a way of saying we're talking about the Hebrew understanding of how the world is kind of put together. And there's a couple of things that begin to stand out. And actually, you can kind of see, if you start off here, the God of the heavens and the waters above. So sometimes in the Bible, you read, language like the waters above the earth or phrasing like that. And that's really just a way of saying that the Hebrews understood you have the world down here, and the world really, the world as we know it exists in kind of a dome, much like if you've seen the movie, um, the Truman Show, it's sort of like that. The universe exists in sort of a dome, and you've got the ground, and then you've got the clouds, and then above it, the sky is really this dome. But above the dome, you have the waters of heaven, and that's really ultimately where God's realm is. For our purposes here, we're actually going to zoom in, and we're going to look at where Jonah has his experience. And you can kind of see a little bit in a little bit more depth. You see that the earth here has these kind of pillars that go down into the earth like this. It's almost the best comparison that comes to my mind is it's like a molar in your mouth that has these deep roots that go down into the gums and just anchored in place. And that's really what the earth was. It has these pillars that go down. If we zoom out just a little bit, you'll see that the earth it actually rests on these foundations. So you have these kind of things here. This is what anchors the dome of the Hebrew world in place. And then you have these foundations. Um, you have the foundations here. Now, what there's a couple of things that Jonah makes mention of, and this maybe helps us just understand a little bit better what Jonah is referring to. First of all, he talks about going down into the deep. For the Hebrew, you can actually see the great deep. Um, let's just get all these other drawings out of the way. The Great Deep is all the way down. It's like you go down, you're on top of the sea, and then you go down and down and down into the deep. You might even have, it might be possible that you have the deep here, and that only goes down to the Great Deep. But in any case, it's this understanding that the world is built on water, and the world itself is anchored into place. And then you have Sheol, which was really the belly of the earth. It's really, so that's why Sheol is often described as the grave, because the grave is where you put your bodies, and when you die, you're buried into the ground. And so it's like you're being brought down there into Sheol, into the grave, into the depths of the earth. So Jonah is describing his experience of being in the water and the waves and the willows and stuff come over him, but then he also talks about being going down into Sheol. That's there in I think it's verse 2 where we read that Jonah talks about crying out from Sheol. So he's not, sometimes people misunderstand a little bit and they equate hell and Sheol, but really that's not quite accurate. Sheol is just the realm of the dead. And so it's not like Jonah literally went to hell. He's really saying, I've been buried into Sheol. And then um, the thing about this is that Sheol would, you can almost kind of picture it like a prison cell that has these bars on top of it. I'll try to make it a little bit three-dimensional there. So there's bars that keep you in, and it's sort of in that way, death is a prison. So sometimes you'll even hear that language used, that death is a prison, and it's the bars above that keep you locked into prison. And so that's why Jonah can actually talk about being locked up in prison. And that's why he's talking about the roots of the mountains. He's talking about these things here. So Jonah he's using this Hebrew cosmology, this way of kind of understanding the world as it was a dome built on these pillars, and the foundations of the earth going down, and the foundations of the mountains, and the Sheol and the grave, all of that kind of closing in on him. And so that's really what he's talking about. He's using that very real conception of how the world was, and that you see that kind of influence in the psalm. So maybe it doesn't necessarily add anything to the actual meaning of the psalm, but it just gives us some clarity on the meaning of the language that Jonah is using. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time here on the cutting room floor.